Hi, it's Reggie. Welcome back to Moonlight Moments. This is the third and final chapter of our story. If you've been following Xyriel's journey, you know this hasn't been about finding answers. It's been about finding herself. Through memory, through silence, through everything she was told to forget or ignore. In episode 17, she woke up in a forest with no memory of how she got there. Only a red thread looped around her wrist. She followed it home, where her mother was gone. The truth hidden in fragments of dirt and drawings. She began to love herself by choosing not to look away. Not anymore. In episode 18, she was placed under observation, trapped in the sterile quiet of the White Room, where her name was called through locked hallways and her past was rewritten as delusion. But she trusted what she remembered, even if no one else did. She wrote it down. She believed herself. That was love too. And now in episode 19, we arrive at the final threshold. The black door. There's no ceremony here, no dramatic revelation. Just one girl standing in front of the memory that changed everything, and choosing to walk through. Not to fix it, not to prove it, but to be free. This story isn't just about Xyriel anymore. It's for every person who has carried an unspoken truth. Every person who was told their pain was imaginary. Every person who had to become their own witness, their own anchor, their own reminder that what happened was real. This episode is for the quiet return, the kind that doesn't need to be loud to be life-changing. It's about what the future needs to know, not as a warning, but as a whisper. You made it. You are not what you survived, and peace is allowed to find you now. So if you're here, thank you for staying through the story, for choosing softness in a world that so often insists on silence, for being brave enough to listen all the way through. This ending is not perfect, but it is honest, and that makes it enough. So take a breath and let's begin. Some truths don't arrive like lightning. They don't burst through the clouds or shatter the silence. Some arrive like a shadow, like the press of your palm against a doorknob, like breath catching, not from fear, but recognition. Xyriel stood at the end of the hallway she had walked 1,000 times in her dreams. The black door waited there, not humming, not glowing, just waiting. The thread was still tied around her wrist, faded now, frayed in places, but it had never broken. She had followed it from the forest to the White Room to here, to the place the thread had always pointed, even when she didn't want to know. The pale man was not beside her this time. No haunting, no hallway whispers, just the sound of her own breath and the knowledge that this door had always been waiting for her to return. She had expected terror, a great trembling, but what came instead was quiet. Not peace, just a soft ache of readiness. The memory was behind that door. Not a metaphor, not a symbol, a real thing, a real night. The one her mind had hidden to survive. The one her body had kept, curled up in the dark behind her ribs. She reached for the doorknob. She hesitated. Not because she was afraid of the truth, but because she knew what it meant to know something fully. There would be no going back. And still, she turned the handle. Inside was a room, smaller than she imagined. Dusty, dim. There was a cot, a lantern, a box of letters bound with twine, and in the center, her mother's necklace, resting in a bowl of black ash. The memory hit her slowly, not like a wave, but like fog rising to meet her. She remembered. Her mother had not disappeared. She had sacrificed herself to keep the pale man from crossing the threshold. She had become the thread. The red cord tied around Xyriel's wrist. It wasn't just guidance. It was her mother's last act of love at her home, a vow that Xyriel would not be lost to. She remembered crying, screaming. She remembered crying, screaming, clawing at the dirt, trying to dig her mother out of the place between worlds. And she remembered the way no one listened, the way the village rewrote the story to make it neat. She left, they said, but now she knew the truth. Her mother didn't leave. She stayed. She gave everything to make sure Xyriel could live. The pale man had lingered ever since, not because he won, but because he was waiting to finish what he started. But Xyriel had changed. She wasn't a girl waiting for permission to believe herself. She wasn't a memory hiding behind white walls. She was someone who had walked through every version of forgetting and still chose to remember. She looked down at the thread. It had unraveled completely. Not because it failed, but because it had done what it came to do. She picked up her mother's necklace. It was warm in her hands, like it had just been held. No spirit appeared. No voice from beyond. Just that same quiet, only now it felt like belonging. When she stepped outside the room, the hallway had changed. No flickering lights, no darkness creeping in. Just light, steady, and still. She didn't feel healed. She didn't feel brave. She didn't feel healed. She didn't feel brave. She felt real. And that was enough. There are endings that look like doors, but not every door closes behind you. Some open inward, some open again and again, until the memory stops being a wound and starts becoming a mirror. This is the work Xyriel did, though no one called it work. No one saw the hours she spent trying to breathe through a memory she couldn't name. No one gave her credit for the day she carried herself when no one else would believe her. And yet, she kept choosing. Self-love here wasn't loud. It wasn't triumphant. It was ordinary. It was the decision to open the door, knowing what might be behind it. It was the willingness to walk through a memory without needing it to apologize or explain itself. Because sometimes, healing doesn't ask you to solve anything. It asks you to witness it, to carry it forward with you without shame, without silence. The future, your future, cannot be built on forgetting. It can't be built on forced closure, or tidy narratives, or timelines that make other people more comfortable. It must be built on your truth, even if your truth has scars. There's something holy about saying, "This happened. I was there. I remember. I made it out." Even if the making it out was slow, uneven, or quiet. Especially then, because you are not who you are before the door, and you're not who others remember you to be. You are the one who walked through, and that changes everything. There are things we carry that no one else can see. Stories we've had to hold alone. Truths we've had to bury, not because we wanted to forget, but because remembering made us feel unlovable, unbelievable, or broken. Maybe you felt that too. Maybe there's a door in you closed for years. Not because you weren't ready, but because the world around you couldn't bear what might be behind it. Sometimes it's a memory no one ever asked you about. A night you try not to think about. A silence you've convinced yourself is safer than speaking. And maybe you've told yourself, if no one else believes it happened, maybe I imagined it. Or, if I open this door, I'll fall apart and never come back. But here's something true. The part of you that remembers is not trying to hurt you. It's trying to come home. You are not broken for holding grief or trauma or confusion. You are not dramatic for having a story that doesn't resolve neatly. You are not too much for needing space to say, "It happened, I remember, it shaped me." There are moments in life when the choice to open the door is not about proving anything. It's about no longer abandoning yourself. It's about looking inward and whispering, "Even if no one else gets it, I believe me." That belief is not small. It's not imaginary. It is survival. And sometimes it becomes your peace. Maybe you'll never get a perfect ending. Maybe no one ever says the words you needed to hear. But still, you can be the one who says, "I know what I walked through. I'm still here, and I'm not hiding anymore." That is what Xyriel did. And that is what you're allowed to do too. If there's a door you're afraid to open, don't start by forcing it open. Start by sitting beside it. Let your body know you're not going to rush. Let your heart know it doesn't need to be ready today. Sometimes, the most loving thing you can do is simply stay near what you once had to run from. Self-love isn't always a decision. It's a quiet accumulation. A breath here, a pause there, a moment where you don't abandon yourself when the memory rises. So try this gently. Speak your truth without performance. You don't need to make it poetic or palatable. Write it in a journal. Say it in a whisper. Text it to a version of you who didn't get to speak. It counts. It matters. Create a ritual of return. Choose something that reminds you you're safe now. A candle, a cup of tea, a stone you hold when the ache rises. Something that says, "I'm here. I stayed. I didn't disappear." Forgive the forgetting. Memory is not linear. You are not weak for not knowing or not remembering correctly. You survived. That's the thread. That's the truth. Don't chase closure. Not every truth needs an ending to be valid. You don't need to know why it happened or how to explain it. Sometimes, peace begins when you stop asking for a resolution and start allowing presence. Let the future be different. Not because you've erased the past, but because you carry yourself through it. Let that count for something. Let it shape the way you love yourself from here forward. And if nothing else feels possible right now, try this. Place your hand over your heart and say, "I remember. I stayed. I love the one who came through." Not as a fix, but as a fact. Close your eyes if you feel safe to. If not, just soften your gaze. Let the muscles in your jaw release. Let your shoulders drop just a little. You are here. You made it to the other side of something. Maybe you don't have all the answers. Maybe you never will. But even now, your breath is proof. You stayed. Imagine standing in a long hallway, the kind that stretches through memory, through time. Behind you are doors you've already opened. Some hurt, some healed, some still echoing. But ahead, there's something different. No door, just light. Just air you haven't breathed yet. Just space for you to arrive without needing to explain how you got there. Take a slow breath in. And as you exhale, imagine releasing the question, "What if no one believes me?" Another slow breath in. And this time, Release the weight of needing to be fixed. Breathe in again. And exhale gently the version of you who thought peace would only come once it all made sense. Now, place one hand on your chest. Feel the rhythm, the fact of you, the heartbeat that never gave up. And say in your own time, in your own way, I am still here. I remember. And I love the one who walked through. Stay here as long as you need, or return to the world with softness, knowing that your story holds light, even in the places it once went dark. There's no perfect ending to healing, only the quiet return, the soft decision to stay with yourself again and again. Xyriel began in a forest, disoriented and alone. A red thread looped around her wrist. She didn't know where it came from, only that it was hers, and that if she followed it, it might lead her home. What she found instead were pieces of memory her mind had buried to survive. Her mother's necklace, dirt beneath her nails, drawings of a faceless figure always near a doorway. That was the first time she loved herself, when she stopped pretending everything was fine and chose to honor the version of herself who remembered, even without the words. Later, in the sterile quiet of the white room, Xyriel was told her truth was just imagination, that nothing had happened, but she heard her name whispered in the night, saw messages she didn't recall writing, and began to understand what her body had always known. And in that moment, when she chose to believe herself even without proof, she loved herself again. Not the polished version, not the brave one, but the unraveling one, the one still trying. And now she's walked through the final door, not for answers, not to fix the past, but to stop running from it. She didn't find closure, she found clarity. She didn't erase what happened, she remembered. And in doing so, she becomes someone new, not because the pain disappeared, but because she carried it with gentleness, not shame. That's what this trilogy has always been about. Learning to love yourself across time. Loving the one who survived but was never seen. Loving the one who is still trying to make sense of it all. And finally, loving the one who chooses peace, not because the story is over, but because you are ready to keep going. Maybe your truth was buried too. Maybe your memories come back in fragments. Maybe the door you fear is still waiting. But you're here. You stayed, and that counts for something. You don't need a perfect ending to be whole. You only need to return. Thank you for being here with me tonight. Follow Moonlight in Moments wherever you listen, and share it with someone who might need a little light today. Until next time, and as always, love yourself better than yesterday.
I opened the door, not to be brave, not to forget, but to stay. The light didn't change, the silence remained, but I stood there and I stayed. No perfect lines, no sudden glow, just my own breath and what I know. I wasn't healed, but I was real, and I knew that was enough to feel what the future needs to know is I didn't run, I let it show. Every scar, every thread, every word I never said, and I love the one who walked through slow. That's what the future needs to know. The past didn't break me, it made me see the truth I carried was always me. No one had to say it loud. No one had to write it down. I believed it. That was my sound. I'm not the silence, I'm not the ache. I'm the one who chose to wake. Not with fire, not with fight, just with the courage to hold the night. What the future needs to know is I didn't run, I let it ride. I know is I didn't run, that I was real, and I knew that was enough to feel. What the future needs to know is I didn't run, I let it show. Every scar, every thread, every word I never said. And I love the one who walked through slow. But the future needs to know. Here's what the future know. Open the door, not to be brave, not to forget, but to stay. The light didn't change, the silence remained, but I stood